Today I'm going to be embarking on what is potentially my most ambitious reading goal yet. It's no secret that I'm a big Marvel fan, but I never really got into the comics, and I think a big part of that is because there's so much connectivity between comic issues, and one issue from one series might go into a different issue from a different series, and so it kind of got a bit too complex for me. I think I tried to read an Amazing Spider-Man comic years ago. I don't even remember which one it was, but I don't really have any experience with the comics really. And the other day I was scrolling in the App Store and I saw the Marvel Unlimited app, and I thought, why not? I'll give this a go. I'm a really big Scarlet Witch fan, and so when I was scrolling on Marvel Unlimited, I saw a Scarlet Witch run that I'd seen a few years ago when it came out in 2023. Scarlet Witch: The Last Door. So I used my free trial to give this a read, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, it did have some of the same issues I was saying. There were references to past comics that I didn't really know, but I just kind of rolled with it, even though some of it was big spoilery kind of stuff. I didn't realise that this version of Wanda had been resurrected. Okay, sure. Overall, I enjoyed Scarlet Witch: The Last Door, so I started searching what comics I should read next, and I kind of fell down a bit of a rabbit hole, and I saw that the Ultimate continuity is its own self-contained thing, separate. It's a separate Earth from the main continuity of Marvel Comics. And then I fell even deeper into my rabbit hole, and I found a reading order on Reddit by u/stillbrush4729. This reading order looks really comprehensive, and it covers comics from 2000 up to 2015, starting with Ultimate Spider-Man and ending with Secret Wars. And it seemed comprehensive enough that I think I'm going to use this reading order. A link to this Reddit thread will be in the description below if you want to follow along with me. I thought I'd break it up a little bit to make it a little bit more manageable for me. So I think I'm going to read a few volumes per video and see where we get to from there. All that being said, on today's agenda we have Ultimate Spider-Man Volumes 1 and 2, Ultimate Daredevil and Elektra Volume 1, and finally, to round off today's video, is Ultimate Elektra Volume 1. Okay, so I have just finished Volume 1 of Ultimate Spider-Man, and I have to say, I'm really enjoying what I've read so far. Volume 1 is issues 1 through 7 of the comic and is basically the origin story for the character in this continuity. It was basically drawn out over the whole volume, where we see Peter's life before he got bit, we see his life at home with Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and we see his life at school, where his only friends are Harry and MJ, and he's basically bullied by everyone else. He's an outcast. And then on a school trip, Peter is bitten by a spider, which at the very start of the first issue, we see Norman Osborn and a team of scientists experimenting on this spider, and then it kind of escapes because his assistant kind of gets scared of holding it. It was a bloody massive spider. I would be scared too if I was one of those children and that spider was on one of my classmates and they were in pain. Terrifying. Then over the next couple of issues we see his slow transformation into becoming Spider-Man physically, and we kind of see these changes affect him at school. He breaks a whole desk, not once but twice in the same volume. We also see because of the spider bite, Peter gets hospitalized a couple of times, and because of this Norman is basically spying on Peter because he doesn't want the company to get sued, and so he sees as Peter starts to exhibit his super strength and things like that. And then we see Peter kind of become Spider-Man, not quite Spider-Man the superhero. He becomes Spider-Man the wrestler because he's trying to get money, because when he was getting his strength, he did break Flash Thompson's arm, and Flash Thompson's parents are we're gonna sue you, and Uncle Ben and Aunt May do not have the money to pay for Flash's medical bill. So Peter's gonna step in and go into illegal fights, which you have to be over 21 to participate in, except he's wearing a mask so no one knows that he's a kid. And he's given the name Spider-Man because of the changes that he's going through. He starts to clash with everyone at school and also with Uncle Ben and Aunt May, so he has some issues at home and he feels people don't really understand what he's going through. And to be fair, they don't, because he's literally been bitten by a radioactive spider and is gain superpowers. He runs away from home, which leads to Uncle Ben giving him the "with great power comes great responsibility" speech, and it's hinted that this is Peter's late father's like philosophy. And then we head into the end of the volume and we get to Uncle Ben's tragic passing and Peter truly becoming Spider-Man. What I thought was really cool is that Peter becoming Spider-Man is paralleled through Norman becoming the Green Goblin, because over the course of the volume, Norman has been spying on Peter. He figures out pretty early on that it's the spider that's given Peter superpowers, and he wants to give himself superpowers, so he recreates an experiment which leads to his lab exploding and him inadvertently becoming the Green Goblin. And in this continuity, the Green Goblin is literally like a big monster. And it culminates in the final issue where Peter truly becomes Spider-Man the superhero and he fights the Green Goblin and he wins. This opening volume introduces a bunch of iconic characters from Spider-Man, including the titular hero himself, Mary Jane, Harry, Green Goblin, and even Doc Ock is a scientist in Norman Osborn's lab before it explodes. But yeah, so overall I really enjoyed this opening volume to Ultimate Spider-Man, and I can't wait to see where it goes next in Volume 2. I just finished Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 2 and I have to say I really liked it. I feel like it was an improvement on the first volume, and I feel like it's only going to get better from here on out. Basically in this volume we see Peter finding his footing as Spider-Man, as well as how he's grieving for his Uncle Ben. We see him start his new job at the Daily Bugle, as well as some new villains such as the Kingpin and Electro. And at the end, he does kind of come out to Mary Jane as Spider-Man. After he confesses that he's Spider-Man to MJ, they have a little almost moment where like they're about to kiss, but then Aunt May like barges in and sends her home. There were even some references to Daredevil and to Elektra in this volume, which, being with Kingpin, I understand, and I guess coincidentally, like, they are the next thing that I'm going to be reading for this video. Also, I guess something I've been finding really interesting is that with, like, comic books, because the issues are so short, like, I think the shortest one was, like, 21 pages, I find it interesting how they managed to pack a whole, like, story into each issue, like, with, like, a whole, like, a beginning, middle, and end, while also hitting, like, emotional beats. Like, there were some moments in this volume where, like, I literally, like, I couldn't help but tear up a bit when Aunt May and Peter were talking about losing Uncle Ben. Or, like, the end when Peter and MJ, like, have their moment, and it was really, like, cute and heartwarming. I suppose this kind of short but fast-paced storytelling is something that I'll get used to as I get more into the comic book scene. Now, next up is Ultimate Daredevil and Elektra. And I'm not going to lie, all of my knowledge of Daredevil basically comes from the Netflix show. I really liked the Netflix show. Like, I liked Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and like the little crossover season that they had. Like, I ate that up. So I'm kind of intrigued to see what Matt Murdock is like in the comics. I'm filming again in this small little space between my bed and my wall. I don't know why, I find it really cozy. So I do have a reading update. And that update is that I have actually read both of the volumes I was going to read. That's Ultimate Daredevil and Elektra, and then Ultimate Elektra. It's basically a continuous story, and I found it way too compelling to like take a break and like get out my camera and film. Like, I just wanted to continue on, so I did. In these two volumes, we basically see the origin story of Elektra. We also see Matt Murdock before he really becomes Daredevil. So like, he does like have his like the black suit that he wore in like the Daredevil show before he got his like red Daredevil suit. He does wear something like that to like run around the city with at night, but he's like not officially Daredevil yet. And I guess the emphasis on this like 2-series like run is more on Elektra and like the story that's happening to her college friends, and I guess to an extent her family, because it's a big part of her origin. So at the start of Daredevil and Elektra, we see Elektra's first day at college. Her dad moves her in, he's really sweet, and we meet Elektra's college roommate. And then at some point we meet another girl called Melissa, and we see her, she's being harassed by a group of guys, and like the main guy harassing her, he's called Trey. That's important for later on. And so Elektra kind of like goes up to her and she helps her because she's trying to like, she's dropped her notes and he's like picked them up and he's just being a real prick about it all and like not giving her notes back. And so Elektra like basically goes up and like forcibly like takes the notes back and like calls him a loser and like moves on. I don't think she did call him a loser, but like in my mind she called him a loser. And then from that point on, Elektra and Phoebe, her roommate, I just realised I haven't said her name yet, they become besties with Melissa after taking down Trey in front of all of his goons and like to save Melissa basically. Phoebe and Melissa ask her like stuff about her history, and so Elektra takes them to her dojo to meet her sensei. Later on, she meets Matt Murdock. It's like in the college gym and he's like doing these like big acrobatic flips and his back muscles. Who said that? What? Okay, but why is Matt Murdock in this continuity kind of like... No, but for real, like, the back muscles was insane. Like, I saw that scene and I was gagged. And then a few days later, she learns his name and she, like, asks him out on a date. It's really cute. Like, she brings him flowers and, like, my little heart melted. They go on a date. It's all fun and nice vibes. And then Elektra tells Phoebe about it. Then they go back to their room and they find Melissa and she's, like, visibly distressed. And, like, basically, she has been attacked by Trey. She tells them that Trey has essayed her and like good friends they take her to the hospital, and then from there we see kind of who Trey is, his family and the power that they have. Trey's gonna get away with it, no question about it. Like a few days later he is already out of jail, and like literally the night that he gets out of jail he tries to attack Melissa again. Insane behaviour. So Elektra decides to threaten him. She sneaks into his room through his skylight and then basically threatens him. I think at this point we get one of our first scenes of Matt in his mask and he's like doing his usual shtick of like, there's a better way of going about this, like the legal way, which obviously Elektra, she doesn't really believe because she's just seen firsthand how the legal system has failed her friend and like letting the guy who sexually assaulted her friend. Understandably, the legal system has failed her. So in that regard, I see why she's doing things the way that she's doing. In retaliation to her threat, Trey hires some people to burn down her dad's dry cleaning business and the apartment above it, effectively making Elektra's dad, and I guess her to some extent, homeless. Elektra, like, she knows immediately that Trey, despite not being the person who necessarily lit the match, she knows that he is the one responsible. And meanwhile, we see Matt do his own investigating into the situation. And in the end of Ultimate Daredevil and Elektra, she basically kidnaps Trey. She's like fully intending to kill him, but then Matt stops her. He reveals his Daredevil identity to her, despite her already kind of suspecting that he is the guy in the mask that's been getting in her way this whole time. What she ends up doing is she stabs Trey in the femoral artery and walks away, and basically she gives Matt the choice. Either he can go and be with her, or he can save Trey. What's crazy about this though is that we see Trey, after he's like been let go from the police, his dad like hits him and he's like, take care of the problem. And so Trey is fully intending, like, he takes his dad's gun and he's, like, fully intending to shoot Elektra. He was a bad guy and he just became fucking worse. Like, rape and murder. Like, be so real right now. Like, honestly, I might get shit for this, but she was, like, you're right. And she should have just, like... Ultimate Elektra continues the story. I think there's, like, a little bit of a time skip, maybe, like, a few weeks. Elektra and her dad are now living with her aunt, and like her dad is having to get like a dodgy business loan from her cousins, and her cousins are basically like, they're giving like mob organized crime vibes. Like, even to me immediately I was like, it's giving like money laundering, which is like kind of a bit on the nose considering like it's a dry cleaning, like laundry. Elektra knows that her cousins are a little bit dodge, so she wants to like pay back her father's debt to her cousins for him. And then at some point the guy who does like the numbers, like the finances, the ledger guy, there's probably a name. I think he had a name, I don't really remember his name, but the guy who was doing the numbers for the money laundering scheme of the cousins, he goes to the police and he's basically like, I have this copy, like, on hand of every illegal thing I've done for these organized crime people, including Wilson Fisk, and he gets put into like witness protection. Around here, it's kind of revealed that the brothers are working underneath Wilson Fisk, and because of this screw up and like this ledger existing that directly implicates Fisk and a bunch of his friends, they basically get into like deep shit. They take up Elektra on her offer, and they're like, if you do this one thing for us, we will clear your father's debt. And so this one thing that they want her to do is to basically go to this ledger guy's safe house posing as a hooker and steal the ledger. My camera just died, so I'm going to finish this on my phone. I hope the quality difference isn't too bad. But yeah, so there's this whole situation with the guy with the ledger and his hard copy of the ledger. And so Fisk, unbeknownst to the brothers who have hired Elektra to steal this binder, Fisk hires Poindexter, who, for fans of the Daredevil Netflix show, I think he's the villain from season 3, the guy who kind of imitates Daredevil and like twists his public perception. Poindexter kills the ledger guy, and Elektra manages to escape, and she runs home covered in the guy's blood, and she like hugs her dad because she's in distress, as you do, but then the police come knocking, and he sends Elektra to her room, answers the door, and they see just him with blood that's clearly not his on him, and he gets arrested for this guy's murder. So he gets arrested for the murder that Poindexter did. So from here, it becomes a story of Elektra trying to clear her dad's name and get him out of jail. At some point in the story, Matt and Foggy got internships at the same law firm, and so Matt gets assigned to one of the big lawyers. Near the end of the volume, it comes to light that the guy that Matt is interning for is actually like working for Fisk and giving him information under the table, and then he has a copy of the ledger, the binder that Fisk hired Poindexter to get for him, and he blackmails Fisk, which not his finest moment. I feel like if you are a lawyer and you are aware of who Wilson Fisk is and his power, like trying to blackmail him for millions of dollars, that's just not going to end well, is it? And plot twist, it doesn't. Fisk hires Poindexter again and gets him to go after this lawyer, and Matt and Elektra get there a little bit too late to stop the murder from happening. Like, they get there just as Poindexter's about to shoot the guy, but they don't manage to save him. And then in the end, Elektra makes a deal with Fisk in order to get her dad out of prison. And then Matt reveals at the very end, in a kind of like a self-righteous moment, that like she should have just listened to him because he had like a completely legal way to get her father out of prison and to get him cleared of all charges. And so she didn't have to make this deal with Fisk to begin with. Anyway, that was Elektra's origin story in the Ultimate continuity. I had a brief look, like scroll through the reading order that I've got, and this appears to be the only series where it's like Daredevil or Elektra. So I'm hoping that they do come back in like crossovers or like events and stuff, because like I really enjoyed the story. Like, I found it so compelling. And again, like I said before, like I find it so interesting how comic books are able to tell such complete and satisfying stories in such short like page counts. So I'm having so much fun. I really liked how it tackled like serious themes quite realistically, especially in terms of Marvel, where it's literally a world with like mutants stuff. Like, mutants are roaming about in this continuity already. Like, there's been loads of references to them. So I like how it's talking about these complex themes, especially like as a college student. Like, it makes sense. Anyway, it's getting kind of late and I'm very sleepy. But next on the reading order, which I'll be reading in the next video, is X-Men Volume 1, and I am beyond excited to see what's going on in this continuity of the X-Men. So looking forward to when I start that, maybe tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!